532, you're assigned to a status. Did you copy the special class?
Not start me a card for a parking problem.
911, what's your emergency? Yeah, my next door neighbor broke into my house and stole my drugs.
911, what?
A fun, unique podcast taking you behind the badge. Unbelievable stories exposing the day in the life of a first responder. You'll laugh a lot, cry a little, and in the end, just have some fun. 911 is made possible by Eric Buchanan and Associates, fighting for those that have been denied disability, life, long-term care, and health benefits nationwide. Now, here's your host, DeMarlon Dean.
Welcome to 911 What? So just think of Def Comedy Jam meets Cops. You know, we're going to have a little fun today, and just want to thank you guys for joining us. And today I have a special treat for you. We have Swatdoc87 on the line with us, and we are so excited to have him. And this guy, you should, if you're not following him already on Instagram, on TikTok, Swatdoc87, make sure you follow this guy. But he's a lot of fun. He's a blast, and we're going to have a blast today. So, hey, I'll let you just introduce yourself. Just kind of tell us, a little bit of your background and, where you've been and where you are now as far as what you're doing.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on. I joined the Army when I was 18, spent 6 years in the infantry. I got out for 2 years and then decided I missed it, got back in the reserves as a medic. And in between the time that I got out, I didn't really know what to do. I went back to the farm where I grew up and was working at, and a guy was a environmental officer was walking around to the neighbor's properties looking for a owner of a horse.
Uh-huh.
The neighbor said that it was my horse. I had a gray dapple. And I said, no, that's my horse back there. And he said, okay. Well, he started talking to me on the side of the road, and he said, you need to go put in an application. So I'd never even thought about it. I said, well, I guess I could be a cop. Why not?
Wow.
So I went down there, and the rest is history.
So you've been an officer for how long now?
Almost 7 years.
7 years. All right. So let's go back to the military. You said Army?
Mm-hmm. I was Army infantry.
Now, were you a medic in the Army? I'm
a medic now in the Army Reserves.
Okay. All right. So that's where you became a medic, was in the reserves.
Mm-hmm. But when I was active duty, I was an infantryman.
Okay. And then I think I understand you are on a SWAT team now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, as part of the SWAT team, are you, do you do medical duties there, or are you just more, you go in and get the bad guy and come home?
So we go in and get the bad. Everyone's an operator first. Okay. You're not allowed. You don't get a specialty until you've been an operator for a little while. The first thing they're going to put you as a driver. So you're going to drive whatever the vehicle is we're going to do the hit with, whether that be an armored personnel carrier or, cool cars or vans or whatever we're going to use. So you're a driver first, then you can start making entries, and then you can get a specialty. So I've done a bunch of different things. On an entry team, I've been a breacher, deploying flashbang grenades, was a primary for a little while. And then I was on the sniper team for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And I left the sniper team because I felt the need to have medical interventions right there on site instead of calling for EMS, which are not going to respond to a hot zone. So they're going to stage, which doesn't really do us any good unless we can break away enough people to take them to EMS. I didn't like the way it was set up. So I decided that I would rejoin the Army again in the reserves as a medic and get that training, and then just keep going to medical schools, law enforcement and civilian medical schools throughout whenever I got the chance.
Very cool. So here's a neat little tidbit for you. Chattanooga, their police department was one of the first police departments to actually deploy tactical medics with the SWAT team. So,
Right.
Yeah, so you can kind of thank Chattanooga PD for you having, your.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I actually made a call today because I'd heard that, and I was talking to one of the former chiefs, and he's like, "Yep, absolutely, we're on the leading edge with that." We're one of the first ones, if not the first one, that actually had medics that trained with them. They went in and trained and did everything with the SWAT team. Now they usually wouldn't go in because they weren't still a part of it. But, when they were doing drills like school shootings and things like that, they would, the SWAT team would go in and clear, and they would be right behind them, taking care of, the wounded as the SWAT team continued to go in and clear the building. But yeah, Chattanooga, Tennessee, one of the first, if not the first, to really have the tactical medics go in with the SWAT team. So pretty cool.
We had the city guys. I work for a county SWAT team, so we encompass all the surrounding counties, and it's a lot of responsibility. It's a regional SWAT team, but the city guys, they have tactical firefighter medics that will go, EMS and firefighters that have volunteered to be on their team. So they'll respond to a SWAT call out, and they'll stage. They're not peace officers.
Sure.
Unless they happen to be a fire marshal, but ordinarily they're not peace officers, and they'll stage, and they've done that. And then we did that back in the day. I just didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that if for whatever reason we get pinned in a room or we can't move, there's nothing.
Yeah.
No one's going to come in and get you.
Right.
If I'm in the stack somewhere, I can break off and hand my responsibility, whatever I'm doing, off to somebody else. And I carry a small trauma bag on my person, the Army M9 trauma bag. And then
I'll act like I know what that is.
Yeah, it's the same bag. Any of the guy, it was designed by the SF community, and then they disseminated it out to the rest of the Army. And then I have a large trauma bag and a bunch more long-term care in the vehicle, so someone can run out and get that. But if nothing else, we have plenty of stuff to keep someone alive on the inside if we can't come out for whatever reason.
Sure. So like in your regular patrol, if the situation occurred, would you be required, or would you go into action as a medic, or would that kind of be like, no, don't do that?
Yep, absolutely. I just today got Employee of the Month for saving somebody's dude try to hang himself. And then he had agonal breathing and a bunch of other problems with him. So under my direction, I had a team work on him for a little while, and then I put in some advanced airway in him and waited for the medics to show up. So
wow,
which was crazy. He was hanging for a while before we even got the call.
That's amazing that you're able to save someone like that. Wow.
3 weeks later, he walked into the sheriff's office and wanted his phone back. Couldn't believe it. It was like seeing a ghost.
That's wow. We'll talk about some of the crazy things that you've seen, because people just really don't. I don't think they really understand. Part of being a police officer, I mean, you have to kind of separate yourself from, you see the worst of everybody every day, and you can certainly get jaded. But one of the things I like about you, and one of the reasons I reached out to you, is because you have fun. And as a police officer, you really have to. It's a coping mechanism. You have to laugh. You have to kind of just, I don't want to say be cold, but you certainly have to have a certain distance between all the things that you see on a day-to-day basis. So were you a nut before you became a police officer and went into the military, or did that kind of grow out of the job?
No, I've always been a nut. I enjoy cutting up, having fun. Always had a blast with my friends, and my Army buddies will tell you that we just had fun the whole time. And pre-deployment, when you came back, I mean, a lot of people were just jaded and didn't care about anything, but we knew, and probably it was a bunch of 19, 20-year-olds just drinking a lot and hanging out together.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, and I tried to make it fun.
Yeah, you have to. Well, thank you for your service, by the way. That's we need more of that as well. So thank you so much for that. So let's jump right into it. So I know you kind of gave me a little idea of some of the things you've seen. So let's just start with some of the funny stuff. I mean, if we talk about some of the funniest things that you've seen and come across, what are the first things that pop into your mind? Just kind of tell us about that.
So there's a rodeo arena where there's a college rodeo team and a bunch of amateur rodeos that go on. And a guy, the specifics of why he was there, I don't remember. But he walked in there with a gun and started waving it around at a bunch of cowboys. So you've got Western riders and English riders that are very different. And there's a whole two different communities, but generally English riders are females. and the Western riders are there, and they're roping and they're practicing for rodeos, and he comes in waving a gun, and for somehow or another, he says some choice words to one of the female English riders, and call her to some derogatory things, and those cowboys got him. They healed him, which is when you rope a cow by the heels. There's headers and heelers. They healed him, so they wrapped the rope around his legs and jerked him off his feet, drug him around the little barnyard there, and they held him until we got there on horseback.
No way. So
Yeah.
cowboys really can do that stuff they show in the movies, you
Woo!
know.
They can. They whooped him. They whooped him pretty good. So
Wow.
there, he is disheveled. All his clothes are torn. His face is muddy, and I wasn't sure who the victim and who the suspect was at that point in time, but they said, no, that's him. So as I've taken 1,000 reports in my life, but I've never taken one from someone on horseback. So I'm up there and I've got his driver's license and I'm talking to him, and he gets through the whole story and he doesn't mention a gun. I asked him, I said, well, didn't he have a gun? And he says, oh yeah. But he was so upset that someone would walk in and say some derogatory terms toward a female.
Mm-hmm.
Would upset them. They weren't worried about a gun. They all had guns. They're not worried about that. But you're not Texas. You're not going to walk in and be rude to a female. I'll tell you that right now.
Chivalry's not dead, huh?
Chivalry is not dead. And I had to prompt him after the story. I said, didn't he have a gun? He said, oh, yeah, he had a gun, but he's not going to talk like that in front of, whoever it was. So that chivalry is not dead. And that was the funniest thing. That guy was hoping that we would get there faster.
That is great. Yeah, that is fun when you have a suspect, or quote the bad guy, and they're the ones wishing for the police to hurry up and get there to get them out of the situation. So I'm sure you've got a few of those. So, with you being in the county, I was a city officer, so I always felt like, at any given moment I could have 2, 3, 10, 20 officers on a call. I feel like when you're with the county, or even worse yet, the state, a lot of times it's just you. And it might be 10, 15, 20 minutes before you get some backup. Any harrowing times when you were like, hurry up and get here?
There's nothing sweeter than the sounds of sirens.
Yes.
That's for sure. I remember I was on a special operations team. SWAT is special operations, but there's full-time special operations guys, and I was a full-time member for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we were primarily in the city in high crime areas and things like that. And like you said, we could put out a call, and the city, the college PD, the county, everyone would just get to us really quick.
Yeah.
But I saw the need for more training and more experience on patrol. So I went back to patrol. But when you're out there, our county's well over 1,000 square miles. So you could be way up north, and some are at the office, some are down south, and you better be able to handle your business.
Wow.
That's for sure. I had one night, I had a dude, he was driving what I found out later to be a stolen car, towing another stolen car. So I pulled him over. I didn't know the car was stolen because
wait, hold on. He had a stolen car and he was towing another stolen car.
Another stolen car, and
this guy did it right.
And it's like Al Capone got caught with tax evasion. Well, this guy got caught just because he didn't have a light. He didn't have the 2 mounted lights. When you're towing a vehicle, you have to have 2 mounted lights. He didn't have them.
Yeah.
Well, he had a felony warrant for his arrest. So I go up to him and say, "Man, hop out the vehicle. Let me show you. Let me tell you what you need to have on your vehicle to tow it." Right? I'm not going to tell him he has a felony. He might take off. So he gets out of the car. I told him to put his hands behind his back. He took off running.
Mm-hmm.
I'm alone. There's another guy, another felon in the car that he's being towed. I don't know what he's going to do to me. And we take off running. I try to tase him on the run. It doesn't work. He goes down into a drainage ditch, and he comes out swinging at me. So we have a little fisticuffs there in the drainage ditch, and I came out on top. But
wow,
you have nobody, and there was no one there. By the time I got him, I fought him. I won. I put him in handcuffs and then walked him back all the way back to the patrol car where we had started the foot chase from.
Mm-hmm.
And no one was there. So
now, where'd the other guy go?
He laid down on the ground. He got out of the car and he laid down on the ground. He didn't want any problems at all.
Okay.
He'd already been to prison. He already knew.
So when you tried to tase him, did they connect or did you miss?
They connect. So he's wearing a zip hoodie.
Yeah.
So and it's unzipped. So as he's running, it's flying back behind him.
Ah.
So he said he felt, and he screamed whenever I heard him scream whenever I popped him with the taser, but it didn't connect enough.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about misconceptions, and that's one of them. You tase, just tase them. And if you tase them, everything's good. And people don't understand a lot of times when TV is really hurt. People see these things on television. They're like, well, why didn't you do this? Why don't you shoot the gun out of his hand? I've got a story about that one. And all of these things, it's just amazing. I feel what people do believe sometimes is possible or what's supposed to happen. So you can tase someone and it can connect. I mean, and do everything it's supposed to do and still not, incapacitate the person. And then the other thing is, I think there's this idea that police are supposed to get their butt whipped. So, if you go and you fight and you win, then a lot of times that's when you see a lot of the people complaining and things like that. I'm like, what are you supposed to do? Is it your job to get beat up? No, it's not. It's your job to win. So, so a couple of misconceptions there. So I'm glad you mentioned that tasing aspect of it.
I tried to tase a big old corn-fed boy one night, and he looks down and he sees, and I got a good spread. One in the thigh and one in his chest. He ripped out the one in his chest and laughed at me.
Yeah. I had that happen with mace once. Fortunately for me, I got out before the tasing started, so I never had to experience it myself. But I did have the mace, and so I had to went through the academy. We had to get maced and all that. But I had a big old boy. He probably was from Texas. Looked like a big old biker dude. and the story behind it is crazy. That was one night that I thought I was going to die. But I finally get him to the car, and I'm trying to get him in, and he's just standing there, just looking at me. He won't get in, and I'm like, well, I can't just take out my PR. I can't just take out my stick and just wail on him. And I'm trying everything. I'm shaking up the mace, trying to intimidate him, like, come on, buddy. And he doesn't move. And so I felt like I emptied the bottle in his face. And he turned away from me, blinked his eyes a couple of times, and then just looked back at me. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? And then he decided he'd go ahead and get in. And he got in the car. And as we pulled off, he was like, I'm sorry, Officer Dean. My bark's worse than my bite. So I don't know if he thought I was going to go take him behind the building somewhere at this point. But I'm just glad he decided, because I don't know where it was going to go. It was not looking good there for a minute. So what about, I think you had mentioned something. I want to hear about this adult bookstore robbery attempt.
So this was during my time in the full-time special operations. There was a adult bookstore robbery, and surveillance video showed that the clerk had been, they left. We didn't have a good shot of him. When they turned around to come back, that's when we got a good face shot of the crook, and he came back in for a DVD or something. So the clerk tries.
He's robbed the place. He's left. Wait a minute, I forgot to get something.
I got to get back in there. So, and I mean, it's a very distinct sex toy there that he had in his hands, and he hit the clerk with it, which makes it robbery in Texas. I mean, if you
use anything to execute a theft, it becomes.
Well, if there's harm. So if there's threat of violence or bodily harm or bodily injury to a clerk, if I push past you to get out of a store, it became like a beer run. Now it became a robbery type deal. Yeah. So that's what upped it from a theft. So we go out there. Well, we get a CI that says and this and that and the whole investigation. Anyway, we get to the guy's house, and it's not just this sex toy that it's a lot of stuff that he stole. So our first clue is the very distinct sex toy is in between the couch cushions of this house.
You can say what it is. I think you could say that wouldn't make this rated R or anything.
That's a dildo, man. That's a good sized dildo.
So he smacked the clerk with a big dildo.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get out, and all the batteries in the remote control for the TV are out. So the remote control out there, the little slip cover is out, and it's laying on the ottoman, and there ain't no batteries in there. Okay. All right. And then the same DVD that he came back in to get is in the bedroom on the TV stand open, and the DVD is not in it. It's in the disc player. And he's still going to sit there and tell me that it wasn't him. I don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't me. It was my, yeah.
That's funny.
That's
So
red-handed.
He made his robbery. Was this the same night or was it nights later?
That we found out? No, it was
He
just
found him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he went home, went right to work.
Got down to business. Oh man, that's funny. What anything else tops your mind is like? So when I was in the academy, one of the things that we were taught was if the crooks were smart, you'd never catch them. You'd be out of a job.
You'd be out of a job. So tell me, maybe we can talk about some more of the funniest things, or just that would probably qualify as one of the dumbest coming back in.
No.
But what some of the dumbest crooks you've ever encountered?
Just the other day, guy pulls the guy over. He rolled a stop sign, pull him over, and he had some dope in his pocket and had some meth in his pocket, and it was wrapped in some money. And he said, "The money's mine." I said, "Okay." He says, "The dope's not mine." Okay. And then I said, he goes, "Well, these pants aren't even mine." Okay.
The pants he's wearing aren't his.
The pants he's wearing aren't his. But then the wallet that has your ID in it is in the pockets. He said, "So yeah, that's mine. That's mine." I said, "Okay, so you're being pretty selective on what's yours and what's not yours." He's like, "I have no idea what's in these pants." I said, "The money that it's wrapped in is yours. You just told me that." That happened every time I find some dope in a wallet. I open the wallet. There's the dope. There's a driver's license, debit cards, credit cards, social security card. And they'll say, "It's not mine." I don't know what to tell you.
Crooks are enterprising. They'll break into people's houses just to hide their dope. That's what's happening. That's what's going on in Texas.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Wow. Anything else jump out at you? It's like, wow, if this guy had just done X, we'd never caught him. Or
I think they just put themselves out there. They talk. They have to talk. They have to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And there ain't no code in the streets. That's not a real thing. I mean, people talk and everybody knows, and they think it's just going to be their little secret. It's wild. It's wild, the things that they'll say just for the notoriety of, "Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I did this." Okay, well, you don't think we're going to use all that?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So I was talking about the guy that I maced and how that was probably, this was on Christmas Day too. That's what made it so bad. I was officer friendly. I had on the nice Santa Claus hat and everything. Nobody was going to jail on Christmas. And this happens, with this call that I had. So tell me about maybe scariest. I mean, just like some of the scariest calls, if you've had them where you just felt like, I might not make it home tonight.
I remember hostage rescue. It was on a holiday weekend, Easter weekend, something. It was a hostage situation, and the hostage was a baby, like less than a year old. So you got baby daddy that beats baby mama, and baby mama runs out, and he's got a gun, and she's not coming back in for the baby. She goes, calls 911 at the neighbor's house. And boom, bada bing, SWAT gets called. So that was wild. There was one of several. This turns into a dumb criminal story. So that's we're in at 10 right now. Mm-hmm. Your hostages and victims are always going to be the highest priority, but everybody, and it's unconscious, I guess. But when it's a child, everyone that has kids, that's that we snap on, because it's a kid,
Absolutely.
So, and not that an adult hostage is not as valuable, for sure. They're all the same, but something about a child, I think, especially the guys that have kids. I have kids. So, the crazy thing was we went in, and without getting too tactic specific, we get in, we get the baby out. Well, we can't find the suspect. The guy that is confirmed inside with a gun, can't find him. So we tore the place apart. 20 cops were in that place, right? So I come in. This is before I wasn't a team leader at this point in time. So I would have been maybe 2 to 3 years on the team, maybe. And I walk in and I'm just walking through the utility room and I see the dryer and I see a little finger holding from the inside the dryer closed, you know? So 20 cops have been in this house. I was like, stop, stop. And I look and I couldn't help myself. I gave it the old heave ho and kicked that door closed with the finger still on. Bam! Ouch! It closed. And then he starts hollering and screaming. The door swings back open and I'm trying to get him out. Well, in a dryer, there's the hole in the dryer. Well, then there's the space up top. His head is up there banging on the inside of the dryer. I'm trying to rip him out of this dryer and his head is just banging up against the thing. So I finally go in, I pop him in the face, and then I sling him out into the laundry room. And then he goes into the laundry room wall and breaks the wall and the whole thing. He's fighting, we're fighting. And of course, there's 50 people there immediately. It was wild. It was wild.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it has to do with the innocence of a child. I mean, not that anybody deserves to be a hostage, like you said, an adult or whatever. But, when you have a child that really doesn't even know what's going on, especially a baby.
A baby, yeah.
Absolutely.
Several months old.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. I learned early on that one thing I could not do would be a child abuse detective. I couldn't do it. Can't do it. Those folks have a special place in my heart. I don't know how they could do it because what I saw in the 3 to 4 full-time years that I was on was enough. And I couldn't imagine having to see the atrocities that people commit upon children. It would just break my heart.
There's FBI agents that we have our own detectives that's what they do. So child pornography, child abuse, neglect, but specifically, I think for me, specifically the child pornography, I don't intellectually understand how you go to work every day and you have to, because they're looking for background images and face recognition and all. I can't. That they're better men and women than me. I can't.
I couldn't do it either. I could not do it either. So we have the dumb criminals. We have the funny criminals, which probably fall into the dumb criminals. One of the things I'd sent out and asked was about heart-wrenching. And I don't mean like what we just talked about, kind of heart-wrenching. That just breaks your heart when you have children that are abused and that type of thing. But you also see circumstances a lot of times where it's not really that somebody's necessarily being abused, but it's just situations that just kind of break your heart. And sometimes you just wish that you could do something. Sometimes, maybe you can't do something, but any of those types of things come to mind for you.
I remember I talked a kid off a ledge one time. This was before I went to negotiator school just to have the certification. And I thought it would be handy I was never on the negotiating team, which is a part of our SWAT team is our negotiations. They're not SWAT operators, but they talk down barricaded subjects, things like that. But I felt like the training was useful. So I went to that school and got the certification. But this is before even that. There was a kid, less than 10, bad home life, no one cared where he was. He didn't go to school, that kind of thing. And he decided that he was going to kill himself. So he crawls up on a ledge. And at the height he was at, the only thing he was going to do is break both his legs, probably, or his neck. But it wasn't like a building or anything crazy.
Yeah.
I crawl up there with him and I talk him down from the sledge and I said, well, let me take you home. And he told me where he lived and I'd never seen anything like that. Dogs and rats and cockroaches running in and out. There's feces everywhere. There's mattresses leaned up against the wall where they would just fold the mattresses down and at night and they would sleep wherever you could, get in where you fit in. And then you pick up this mattress and then there's feces and urine everywhere. There's no heat. There's no AC. There's barely any food. There's no electricity. I mean, it was wild. And that kind of thing we can do something about. I would, you'll drive by and see kids that are taking a bath in a drum like a 55-gallon drum
Wow.
yard with a water hose. Yeah, and that's how they do it. That's
That's just normal to them.
it's normal. They wouldn't know a difference.
Man.
And that's just, I mean, it usually comes back to kids. I have maybe it's jaded, but adults are adults. If you don't like it, go do something about it. You're grown. You take some personal responsibility for yourself. And a lot of people disagree with me when I say drug addiction is not a disease; it's self-inflicted. It's hard to quit for sure. I mean, it's almost impossible, but you can do it.
Sure.
But you chose that. Well, the child didn't choose that.
Right.
And that's what makes it so sad. I think any wrecks, I'll never forget, bloody car seats. That's like a snapshot that sticks in your mind. It's wild. The child didn't. I ran on a girl. She kept saying she was 10, but she, 3 probably. She just wanted to be grown. She was 3. Her mom decided that she didn't need a car seat that day.
Oh.
And her mom also decided, because she had received a citation a year or so prior for not having her headlights on. So in Texas, you have to have your headlights on 30 minutes after sunset. Exactly. So 30 minutes, wherever the National Weather Service says the sunset was, 30 minutes after that, you must have your headlights on. But you and me, we know when it starts getting dusk, I'm going to turn my headlights on.
Sure, yeah.
What it is. Well, she decided that she didn't have to do that. And even though it was dusk and cloudy, she said, nope, it's not 30 minutes. So she was driving without her headlights on, and someone T-boned her because they couldn't see her because the weather conditions. So she thought, screw the man. I'm going to do what I want to do because that's the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Well, her broke her leg in several places, and she was in the back of the car. So I had to crawl in the car with her. And I've cut clothes off of people. I carry trauma shears on me all the time for both medical and cop purposes. And cutting off an Olaf, the snowman T-shirt off a baby, it's awful.
Yeah.
And bedazzled, cute little pair of jeans. Her leg welling up. So I cut off the little bedazzled, cute little jeans, and it's a diaper wearing child. Just because you had some sense of entitlement that you could do what you want to do.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
And not only is that you're when you go into a situation like that, and I hope the people that listen to this understand, it's not, you have so many emotions that you're dealing with. I mean, you have the pain and your heart breaking for this child that you're trying to help. And frankly, there's anger at the parent that put the child in a situation that you just want to go wring their neck and you can't. And, and then either later that shift, you just got to go on and, write a ticket for speeding, if you know what I mean? Or the next day, you just got to go do it all over again and put it behind you as if it didn't happen. I know you use comedy to help you with that, but are there any other coping mechanisms that you have that really are helpful for you to deal with things like that?
I think fitness is a big thing. You get out.
I saw those guns, those cannons you got on you.
Yeah. They're little pea shooters now, but you know what I'm saying? It'll get there. Yeah, I think fitness is a big thing for a couple of reasons. Number one, people depend on you. If you're an accountant, nothing against accountants, is physically depending on you for anything.
Sure.
If you're a little out of shape, a little overweight, well, guess what? You can still hit that calculator and do your job, and I'm sure you're a fine accountant, right? But if you're a firefighter, EMS, cops, in anything where people physically depend on you, or else someone could die, you must be in shape. So that's the first and most important reason why you need to stay in shape. And it's embarrassing, cops that are just grossly obese for their own health and longevity, first of all. But who are you going to help? Who are you going to? It can't be done when you're like that. You can't even help yourself.
Right.
So, but I think that's a good coping mechanism where, for just an hour a day, an hour and a half a day, you have your headphones in and you're focusing on what you got to do. And, whatever the pain was of the day, then you make your own pain. And that's a big thing. And then, just having your road dogs, your shift dogs that you go and talk about it and laugh about it and make inappropriate jokes, and we move on about our day.
Yeah.
That's
really
important.
Another thing. That's people are like, how can you say that? Well, it's a coping mechanism. You don't mean anything by it. It's sometimes, like I said, it's inappropriate, it's crass, but it's just a way to get that crap out. Here I am. What are we? I was off altogether. I mean, I haven't been anything around law enforcement since 1997. What's that? 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only regret I have about leaving is all of my classmates are now retiring. But my wife still says, that there's a distance about me. You have this just kind of standoffish, and I don't know how much of that is just my personality, frankly, or that there's still those guards up because of what I had to put up that many years ago. And so it takes a toll. Not only, we chose it, and we chose it for whatever reasons, but that still doesn't change the fact that it will change you. And not only is it you, but everybody in that house with you has to deal with it. And, you can't come home if you're, we didn't even talk about if you're married or anything like that, but you can't come home and just dump on your spouse,
No.
and sometimes they ask you to and want you to, but they don't want that. They really don't want that.
My wife is probably the most supportive person I've ever met. Whatever I want to do, she's like, go do it, take care of it, and she'll bend over backwards to where the house is clean. And because I can't do clutter, everything has to be where it's got to be. And when I was single, I had an apartment and had a barracks room. I was always ready for inspection. Everything was just right where it needed to be. And that's the military in me that beat it into me for years. I mean, you'll die if your socks and underwear aren't laid out this way. You will die. That kind of thing. But she's supportive, and she takes, she'll keep the kids off me for a while, because a lot of people don't know, they get into this job, you have what's called a circadian rhythm. Mm-hmm. Your circadian rhythm starts when you wake up, and you're like, oh, here we go again. And then you're fine. You brush your teeth, eat breakfast, hang out with the wife, whatever. And then it shoots up into, I am on duty, and I'm not going to, let my guard down, and I'm going to do all my stuff. And I see all these terrible things. And then when you get home, in a sense, a secure environment to you, it's not really secure. Nothing's really secure, but to you, it's home. So it's your castle, right? Mm-hmm. Rhythm plummets, but it doesn't plummet back to your starting point. It plummets down farther. So, well, how was your day? How's your day? I don't want to talk about it. I can't talk about it, probably legally. Right. And then number two, I don't want to talk. Why would I want to tell you that? And number three, why would I want to just depress you and me both? When what's the point of that? But you're so far down, and it takes, maybe for different people, it takes longer to get back to your starting point. Your baseline is how you normally are. You're at work up here, but as soon as you get home, it dumps and your circadian rhythm is off and it plummets.
Wow.
So you need to be aware of that and cognizant of that, and your spouse needs to be cognizant of that, because if my baseline is here and I'm down here for whatever reason, I might be snappy, I might be standoffish, I might be angry, and it's not your fault, but leave me alone for a little while. And it depends on the person, and eventually you'll get back to your baseline and you'll be fine.
Yeah. And that's good. That's good advice. Again, part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast is so that people just understand what it's like to be in these types of first responder positions. It's not, it's not just everything you see on television, because everything on television is great. They do all that stuff, and they go jump through windows and save babies, and they go home and kiss the wife and have a great dinner. And it's all good. And that's just not the case. I mean, there is a heavy, heavy, heavy load on your shoulders. And granted, most days, most of the time throughout your shift is dull. But you're still at a heightened sense of alertness. And you go from 0 to 250 miles an hour just like that. And, you always hope and pray that it doesn't get there, but it can at any given time. And I think that's another, misconception. And I'll give you an opportunity to share some of what you think. But I think people feel like officers just go out looking for, hey, who can I snatch up today? Yada, yada, yada. And I really believe, I'm probably going to get some flack for saying this, but I tell all my friends, look, officers, police, especially if you've been on a while, they are inherently lazy. They don't want to do anything that they have to do. You're not going out. You do that for about 6 to 12 months. You want to go out and save the world. Then after that, you realize this is just a job. I have to go home. Now you're going to go and you're going to enforce the law and you're going to make sure people are safe, but you're not looking to go jack up everybody you come across. Cause I promise you, you could probably pull over just about every single car you're behind if you just wait just long enough. They're going to do something to give you a reason to pull over. But you're not looking for that. You're looking for legitimate reasons and legitimate safety things, serious things to really, to enforce. And everybody, cops are just like any other people. You have some officers that they would, if they could go out and write 500 tickets a day, they would do it because that's what they like. They like to enforce traffic rules. I hated it. I could not stand writing tickets. I did it when somebody did something really crazy right in front of me that made me look stupid if I didn't go address those people. But then you have others that their big thing, for whatever reason, they want to go, they'll go crawl in a hole at 2:00 in the morning and watch a dope house for 3 hours so they can make a bust there because that's what gets them excited. And you just have different things that really drive you for whatever reason, whatever personal reason. But the truth of the matter is, it's a hassle to take people to jail. It's part of the job. You got to do it, but it's a pain in the butt. And anytime, most of the time, if people would talk with just a little bit of courtesy and a little sense, and understand that if they get a citation, it is citation in lieu of arrest, meaning I can take you to jail right now, but I'm giving you a speeding ticket instead, and just calm down. Everybody, everyone's life would be so much easier. And which leads me to my next point. You've taken away SWAT, those types of special tactics, things like that. Just your normal everyday patrol. You've been a patrol officer 6 years. How many times have you had to fire your weapon at someone?
Never.
Another misconception. I think people think we go out all the time. I never. It was rare that I had to unholster my weapon, much less fire at someone. I have been shot at. You ever been shot at?
Oh yeah.
Have been shot at. I did try to run over the guy when he shot at me. Fortunately, I was in the car and he was running down an alley and it was wet. It had just rained. I actually rolled up on a armed robbery in progress, which is another rarity. You don't usually roll up on stuff like that. No. And I did, and it was really weird looking. When I rolled up, I just saw it looks like 3 guys standing on the corner. And as I got closer, I could see 2 of the guys had their hands up, and one of the guys looked really, really funny, and I wasn't sure why. Well, it turns out he had a kid's shirt over his head. That was his mask. And he had holes cut out his eyes, and it was the little armholes on the shirt that were hanging off the side of his head. And when I rolled up, he took off running, and he hit the alley, and he turned and kind of fired over his shoulder at me. And basically what it did was just tick me off. But so I just floored it. I'm like, well, shoot, he's shooting at me. I'm going to hit him. Well, luckily for him, I spun out because it was muddy and didn't go forward quickly enough. So we caught him a couple of blocks later. But yeah, most officers will never fire their weapon. And there's just this thing that, they're just out here looking for who can they shoot next. And, so I'm glad I didn't know the answer to that. I didn't prep you for that. So I was kind of hoping.
I mean, you statistically, I know that, there's a lot of cops that don't even unholster their weapon a lot of times.
Exactly.
But I think it's kind of the Wild West around here. I've got a lot of teammates, they get into officer involved shootings quite a bit. For whatever reason, I haven't. I'm good with that. It's not. I'm not looking for that. But a lot of my teammates have, and being on scene is stressful for sure. Not even close to what they're feeling, but it's not, a normal business, business as usual to go out and get in gunfights. That's not how it is. This isn't, Iraq 03, 04, 05. It's the United States, and right. It's not the way it are. Now, even LAPD, NYPD, and all them, even those guys were more prone to getting gunfights for sure. And I'm sure there's salty officers out there that have. but your grand majority of cops nationwide really don't that much.
It's rare. I mean, I know a couple of folks that were on the force back then, and I know one that might have been involved in two, maybe three during the course of his time there. But again, it was, they were justified, but it was a rarity. And I worked in probably the hottest team, one or two. I was on what was called Fox team. So all my Chattanooga folks that'll be listening will know I'm representing Fox team. But we had Fox and Echo, and I guess Delta. Those are the three teams that had the probably highest rates of crime back then, and it was jumping back in the early 90s. So lots of change, lot has changed. I don't think that I just couldn't do it now. So my hats off to you. A couple more questions, and then I'll let you go and open it up, or if you have anything else you'd like to add. But what do you feel like is the biggest misconception about your job?
I think it's disingenuous that people try to make everything about race.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I understand that. I mean, some people, racism it exists, I think. But it's taught. No one is inherently, they're born that way. Absolutely not. You can't convince me otherwise. So it's disingenuous for either a media outlet or teaching your kids or teachers or professors in college or whatever to teach people that's what will make or break a case or make or break a traffic stop. It has no bearing on it.
Right.
And you and I are a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a conversation. If you hated the white man so much, why would you want to talk to me?
Exactly.
And if I hate the black man so much, why would I want to talk to you? It irritates me to the point. I got a buddy that's from New York.
From New York?
Yeah, he's a cop from in the city, and we're at the jail at the same time just the other day, and he brings in a guy that's calling him a racist pig, all this other stuff, right? And he says, "Let me stop you right there. All right, I'm from the Bronx, and I hate everybody." Okay. And he just dresses the guy down, and it's humorous the way he said it, but I can't. It's a common misconception that I wish people would get away from. Your race has nothing to do with the outcome of this, whatever, traffic stop, call for service, whatever it is. Your attitude and your attitude and how you cooperate with the investigation, that's what's going to determine the outcome of the traffic stop.
Sure.
So if I come and tell you, "Hey man, your old stop sign," you know what? I'll tell you where to put it. Okay, I didn't do that. You can't prove it. This and that, and you start. Well, yes, I can prove it. You got about 6 different cameras on you. Our cars now, I got 3 fisheye cameras in the front, 2 in the back, 1 in the back seat, 1 on me. I've got 1 on my person.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Holy moly!
I got 1 that I can turn to do an in-car interview. I've got cameras everywhere, man. You can't tell me that you didn't. Okay.
Wow.
If you think you didn't, or if you think that it's unjustified, then let's go to court. That's what it's for. Don't fight me on the street, because
Fight it in court.
That means to me that there's something else that I'm not seeing that's going to hurt me, or you're doing something outside of the scope of just whatever I stopped you for.
Sure.
But if you bring race into it, it just starts to really irritate me. And at first, when I was first a cop, they told me that would be a thing. I was like, yeah, man, whatever. No, it's a big problem, and it's a common misconception I wish people get away from.
So what do you think we could do about that? I think that's a great point. And like I said, I saw very, 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 very few examples of it in my time. There were a couple of instances, and it wasn't even towards suspects, but I just knew some things that this person that was actually riding with me had said, and I called him out on it, and he was pretty embarrassed. But that was the exception. It's always the exception that gets all the attention. But hopefully things like this, us having this conversation helps. But what else? Do you think there's other things that we could do about that? Because it is, I feel like, a big misconception, and I think the media helps that. I think because it sells. And when you do have a bad apple, whether it's because of race or whatever, they're going to make sure that everybody thinks it is.
I think I go back to policing is an international organization. You can't physically have an international organization that doesn't have a few bad apples in it. but we have a better track record as law enforcement than clergymen. So whether that be priests, preachers, deacons, all this, we have a better track record than them, physicians, lawyers. But we're still on the highlight because no one likes the cops, whatever. But I always go back also to an interview that Morgan Freeman did. I don't know if you've seen it. And he said that he was asked, well, how do we fix racism? He says, stop talking about it.
I just recently someone played that. Yeah. Stop calling me a black man. I'll stop calling you a white man. And I'm just a man. Yeah.
You know me as Morgan Freeman. I know as you as whatever the guy's name was, and I don't want to make it all about race. It's just, it's so annoying. And it puts so many barriers and walls between us and the public. When they see me arrive on scene, that if they say, oh, it's the cops. Okay. All right. Well, let's deal with that. Or if they say, it's a white cop. Well,
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Why should that matter?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's a barrier. It's already a barrier, natural barrier there because of authority coming now.
Yep.
And, you didn't necessarily want them there, but it adds an extra layer when there's a perceived, you're automatically racist because you look differently than them, and that goes on both sides, so that's good. Is there anything that you would like the world to know about your profession?
There is no ticket quotas. That is not a real thing.
Are you sure there's not in Texas?
There is not. I'll tell you right now that you cannot say you better write X amount of tickets or else you're fired.
Right.
No, absolutely not. That's not a real thing. But if you get a citation for me, you really messed up because I don't care. I'm not the ticket guy. I make traffic stops for two reasons. Number one, safety violations. Okay. You blew a red light. There's people around. You went around a bus with the stop sign down. You're driving without headlights. You're driving without backlights, whatever. And I think that's a safety issue. Number two, interdiction. To go out and proactively find guns, drugs, and gang members so that they're not going to break into your house and they're not going to rob you at gunpoint and they're not going to get high and crash into your kids on their way home from school. So I see that as the two reasons I make traffic stops. And then, it's not us versus you.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm just as normal as a guy as you'll ever meet.
You seem like it. Yeah, you really do seem like it. And a lot of people don't realize that most of your drug bust really comes from traffic stops. You find some reason, a legitimate reason to stop someone. Mm-hmm. And, through good police work, you realize that something's just not quite right here. Next thing you know, you got 16 million pounds of marijuana in the back. So that's just part of good police work. I mean, like, again, you have to do your job. Police are going to do their job, but you said it earlier. If you just talk with a little courtesy, you're probably going to get something, but the suspect is much more in control of what they receive than they realize,
Absolutely.
Is this going to be a citation or are you going to jail? Is this thing going to escalate? The suspect is usually in control of that. But this has been fun. And, I'm sure we'll finish this and I'll have 1,000 more questions that I'd love to answer you. But, I like to leave it open for some time down the road. Maybe you'll come back on and after we do a few more of these and we'll talk again and maybe we can save the world somehow.
Let's do it. I appreciate you having me on very much.
I appreciate you. Want to throw out where people can find you? Because I know you're growing this TikTok thing and Instagram.
Yeah. So I'm on TikTok and Instagram, Swatdoc87.
Swatdoc87, DOC87.
Yeah.
So go check him out.
I do shooting videos, tutorials, low round count shooting drills. Cool. I think gear is cool. I post a lot of gear pictures and stuff like that. So
you can have one weapon. What would it be?
Oh, I'd say a 223 platform, some kind of AR platform.
Really?
That's the most. If I could only have one forever, that's what I carry around. I think a little shorty M4 would be the most practical.
There you go. All right.
But that's hard. That's hard to say. There's a lot of factors in there, and I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that. There's gonna be gun guys coming after me now.
Hey, That's what it's all about. I can't make it easy. I can't tell you to pick 5. I mean, that's easy. So, yep, just one. Well, all right. Well, thank you so very, very much. And, if I can ever do anything for you, reach out. Don't come to my house because it's full of clutter, though. So that will drive you crazy.
Drive me crazy. I can't do it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Good. Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for listening to 911 What? We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you have comments or suggestions, please email us at 911what.podcast@gmail.com. And thanks to Eric Buchanan and Associates for making this episode possible.